Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And in this episode, we're going to have a look at the irony of Calvin Robertson. He is a black trainee vicar. And he's had his training stopped and has been told he's not going to be a vicar anymore because he's fell afoul of the agenda and the dogma of the Church of England. We're not talking here about the teachings of Jesus or how God created things and all that. No, nothing religious. He's fell afoul of their views on institutional racism. He said it's his life lived experience that as a black man he's never encountered institutional racism. And that goes against what the church believes that there is. Who's to say? Well, I suspect he is, really, him being the expert on it. Anyway, the church have proved that there is institutional racism because the white bishops have stopped a black man from becoming a vicar. Never mind. Let's have a look at the article. So here's the article. Basically, not woke enough to be a vicar. Black political commentator Calvin, I think they mean Robinson, not Robertson, who said Britain is not a racist country, is blocked from becoming a priest by a white bishop as a result. And he refutes that Britain is institutionally racist. Mr. Robinson trained for 2 years to become an ordained member of the clergy, but was told plans for him to serve as a deacon at a parish in London were axed because of his views that Britain isn't racist. And he would know, he's at the pointy end of this stuff. In the latest storm to hit the church, Calvin Robinson, a TV presenter and political commentator, accused senior figures last night of torpedoing his planned ordination because of his conservative and anti-woke views. Yeah, I mean, hey, I see him on television. He's on various programmes. He occasionally pops up on Sky or on GB News, things like that. And he is not extreme right. I mean, right of centre. You know, just a little bit right of centre. He speaks a lot of sense. He accepts that there's racism on a personal level, but never institutional racism in his experience. And I'm going to say, as a black man, he would have lived that experience. He will be more aware than some white middle-aged bishop in his ivory towers who wants an agenda because they need to be relevant. And the Church of England is becoming less and less relevant. As time goes on, the congregations are shrinking. You're getting one vicar controlling 7 or 8 churches now to wheel around week to week because they just don't have the congregations. Sad. Anyway, internal emails obtained by the Mail on Sunday reveal that Archbishop of Canterbury Justin Welby, a madman and a communist, asked to be shown examples of Mr. Robinson's tweets amid mounting alarm within the church over his criticism of bleeding heart liberal vicars and the church's race policy. Yeah, because the church need racism. It's, this is the thing. In a world without racism, what can the Church of England do? And he's right about the bleeding heart liberals. I mean, they get everywhere, don't they? They're like a cancer. In one, the Right Reverend Rob Wickham, Bishop of Edmonton, voiced his fears to senior church leaders after Mr. Robinson insisted Britain was not riven with racism. And he said, Calvin's comments concern me about denying institutional racism in this country. Well, he's not denying it. He's saying it doesn't exist. You have to prove it does. I'm concerned that you think it does exist. Mr. Robinson also claimed that the Bishop of London, the Right Reverend Sally Mullally, that's not easy to say, it's Sarah Mullally, anyway, lectured him about racism in the church, insisting that as a white woman, I can tell you the church is institutionally racist. So what she's saying is she's racist. Not the church, she. Not the institutions of Britain, she is the racist. And if she's admitting that she's the racist, she needs to quit and then go attend some kind of training to stop her being a racist. Mr. Robinson, a former teacher, who was trained for 2 years to become an ordained member of the clergy, has been told plans for him to serve as a deacon have been axed. Last night, he described the decision as soul-destroying and claimed it followed a sustained campaign against him by the Bishop of Edmonton over his views. I reckon the Bishop of Edmonton is racist, because if he's got a whole campaign against this black man, then you've got to question the motivation behind it. These people are claiming they are institutionally racist, yet they are disregarding the opinion of an ethnic minority because it's not fitting their narrative, he said. In comments set to rock the church's hierarchy, he questioned whether the Archbishop of Canterbury, who has claimed the church is deeply institutionally racist, had part in blocking his ordination. So the Archbishop of Canterbury is also a racist. All of these people need to be fired, need to quit, need to take themselves off and look in the mirror, because they are all racist. I would love to know how big a role the Archbishop had in it, because he has certainly been a part of the conversation. He is the boss, and the fact that they have gone ahead and cancelled me suggests he was happy with that. The controversy comes after the Archbishop was criticised for using his Easter Day sermon to attack government plans to send migrants to Rwanda as ungodly. So what is he saying? That Rwanda is ungodly? He's saying Rwanda's a terrible, terrible country and it's ungodly. That's kind of a bit racist, isn't it? The church said last night there were only a few clergy positions in London and no suitable option available in London for Mr Robinson, who became a trainee vicar in an ordinand at St Stephen's House, a theological college at the University of Oxford, in 2020. The emails confirmed that even before starting his studies, Mr Robinson's public comments were being scrutinised by church leaders. He claimed on ITV's Good Morning Britain in September 2020 that the Black Lives Matter movement was stoking racial tensions, adding, "There are elements of racism in this country we need to stamp out. But while we're seeing everything as racist, we are kind of undermining those racial issues we do need to address." That day, the Bishop of Edmonton emailed the Bishop of London, the Right Reverend Sarah Mullally, and a PR advisor to the Diocese of London to register concern about Mr Robinson's denial of institutional racism in Britain. Yeah, because how dare a black man say there's no racism? Calvin Robinson is not only a political commentator, but he's an ordinand and former teacher in this area. He added, despite the Church's view on racism, the Commission on Race and Ethnic Disparities concluded in March 2021 that Britain did not have a systemic racism problem. Well, Calvin's been saying that. The Commission said that. It's only the Church of England saying it, so they must be the racists. In November 2021, senior church leaders received a complaint after Mr Robinson shared on social media a Daily Mail investigation that exposed how the church gave official advice that being baptised could help fail asylum seekers' stay in Britain. And this is why the Church of England is completely out of touch. It followed news that bomber Enzo Alemi, who detonated a device at the hospital in Liverpool last year, was baptised there as a Christian in 2015. Mr Robinson, then a GB News commentator, tweeted that misguided Bleeding Heart Liberal vicars could be complicit in recent terror attacks, adding not to mention the abuse of the holy sacrament of baptism. Bishop Wickham criticised the highly irresponsible comments in an email to Emma Einson, Assistant Bishop to the Archbishop of Canterbury and York, and said that they remained online after 27 migrants perished in the English Channel. These are very clear examples as to why, in my opinion, his ordination should be looked at very closely indeed. Why? Because he speaks the truth. Because he says the church is complicit in the passing of people, in terrible events. Because the church is aiding and assisting the worst kind of people who want to end us all. And the church is saying, oh no, this is just you being racist. No, it's the church being racist. It's the church destroying the fabric of this country. The church is evil. The Church of England is out of touch, is corrupt, and is filled with the most awful people. Calvin's Twitter feed is here. It's worth scrolling down, he revealed to the Archbishop of Canterbury, who had asked for examples of Calvin Robinson's tweets, and highlighted that Mr Robinson had also criticised the findings of the Church's anti-racism task force, which recommended quotas to boost the number of black and ethnic minorities in senior clergy positions. And then they immediately stop that because they don't want a black man to become a vicar, because the black man says things they don't like. And they can't attack him publicly for that, because that would look like racism. So they just don't make him a vicar and say, oh, it's because of his views on this. No, it's they are racist. Mr Robinson was to be ordained as a deacon with a part-time role as an assistant curate at St Albans Church in Holborn, central London. But in February, the Bishop of Fulham, the Right Reverend Jonathan Baker, told him the role was likely to prove problematic and would not lead to a fruitful or happy formation for you in your early years in ordained ministry. Mr. Robertson offered to reduce his media work, but was told he would still not be able to take up the proposed role because that moment had passed. In other words, look, your political views are anathema to the Church of England because you speak sense, you are down with the people, you understand what's actually happening in reality, whereas we don't. We don't like that, so you're fired. And it goes on, like I say, and there's just more of the same, really. But yeah, I'll come up and finish off there. Yeah, so we actually have the Church of England admitting it is racist. So presumably all the senior members of the church should now resign. Calvin has actually said, that he has received race. He's suffered from racism, and I don't think that there's a black person in this country who hasn't. I must be honest. It's terrible, but when you're criticised or put upon not because of what you say or what you do, but simply because of who you are, that's a terrible thing. I mean, if you make a mistake, if you do something wrong or whatever, sure, get criticism because you're an idiot, but not because you happen to be black. Prejudgment is a terrible thing. Now, he said, this is Calvin, he said that in every case has been down to sort of malicious individuals, the racist individuals, idiots, morons, fools. He's never suffered from institutional racism until now. The irony. Anyway, we wish Calvin the best of luck. He has got a fight against it. He can actually take this to a tribunal, and I hope he does, because it needs to be widened and put into the public domain just how awful the Church of England actually is. But we'll round that off there. If you like what you hear and see on the channel, please subscribe if you haven't already. Ring the bell for notifications of future output. Leave a like, leave a comment, and until next time, stay safe, stay well, and goodbye.